Well, welcome back. It's been a little bit of a time out for us, but we took a little bit of vacation and we were giving Starlink time to figure out their plans and create some definition for everybody. And we're excited to say today we're going to talk about which ones make the most sense for recreational boaters. We're going to break that into the categories of liveaboards that are full-time, never leave their slip, to coastal cruisers, and then ultimately we're going to talk about those that do open ocean cruising as well. Three very different recommendations that we have for you. So,
let's get to it.
In 2019, we sold everything to realize our dream of living, working, and cruising full-time on our boat. I'm John, this is Carlin, and this is our home, the Elli-Yacht. So right off the bat, we're not going to talk about hardware in this particular video because we're going to put a link up here if you're interested in the hardware. It really hasn't changed really at all since our last video about which hardware is really best, but the plans have completely changed. And well, let's jump right into it of how they've changed and which ones make the most sense for each one of those different types of boaters, starting with liveaboards. So liveaboards that never leave their slip. So believe it or not, there are folks that they love to live on their boat. It's tied to the dock and it never leaves that dock. In fact, in South Lake Union, there are boats out there that don't even have engines on them any longer. But so for those folks, we really recommend the one plan that exists that is the residential plan. It is a fixed land-based plan. It has priority service, which is just outstanding, so that you get the highest service level and speeds when you're in a congested area, which a lot of liveaboards are. It's also the cheapest plan. It's $120 US a month. So just hands down, it makes the most sense if you're never gonna leave your slip and you need the best service available. So let's talk about coastal cruisers. So what the heck does coastal cruiser even mean? Especially in Starlink's language. So this is where it's really important that you get on Starlink's service map. And they've got these hexagons that show where they have available service. And especially, I'm really going to focus on the Canadian waters, the Gulf Islands, up through Desolation Sound, Broughton's, etc., and down through, well, really the coastal waters on both the east coast and west coast of the states. But it really does apply in other countries as well if there is Starlink service. But you go into the service map, and if you zoom in right along those coastlines, it will show you where it has coverage and where it does not. So everything that has blue coverage is considered coastal coverage. So you don't have to worry, gosh, do I have to pay, for, this maritime service, and, it's going to be super expensive, and I have to have this priority type of data. You're covered under those areas, and that is this plan that they call mobile. And so mobile it's really interesting because it used to be super confusing before. It's like, what does mobile mean? Does that mean that I can actually pick it up and move it somewhere else? Or does that mean that I can be in motion? And those things were defined completely different by Starlink, and it created a ton of confusion. And now there is clarity. So under the mobile plan, you can not only pick up your gear and move it to another marina. It's really clear now in the FAQ for Starlink, in motion is supported on this plan up to 10 miles an hour. So this plan, if you just get the basic mobility plan, you can go up to 10 miles an hour for $150 a month, and you're completely covered. Now, it is a best effort service at that service, so it's not the priority data that you get like we were talking about on the residential plan. It is a best effort. So they reserve all of the priority plans and service for others that are paying for that, or their plan covers that. If you're going to somewhere like right now we're in Laura Cove and Desolation Sound, there's not a lot of competition for bandwidth. So under best effort right here, I'm getting insane upload and download speeds. On my smaller roam dish, I'm getting up to 150 meg per second on download. When I look at our high performance one, we're getting in excess of 250 meg per second on our upload. So I don't have to worry about not having priority data. However, if you go into some marinas, like going to Elli-Yacht Bay in Seattle, huge competition for bandwidth there. So if your best effort, it stinks. You're getting download speeds of like 8 or 9. It's unlivable, basically. So this is where they do have a provision on this mobility plan where you just go into your data usage on your iPhone or your Android, and you just slide over the data usage toggle, and all of a sudden in 15 minutes you get priority data. And this is really nice because you can turn it on and off, and it works out perfectly. And so that you don't have to worry about these different types of plans or having to pay for this higher level plan. Now, it costs $2 per gig to be able to do that, but I found that when we do it, it's usually for a meeting that I have to be on, or there's something important, Carlin's uploading a video possibly, we just slide that over and we can get that priority data. So that it works really well. Now, when you also slide it over to get priority data, you can also enable in motion over 10 miles an hour. So if your boat, if you're a speed demon and you're doing 15 knots, 20, 30 knots, you don't have to worry about dropping service while you're cruising at that speed. I have to be honest with you, generally we don't use the internet when we're cruising. We only go to 15 knots as our cruising speed. And we're up here in desolation, being mindful of the environment and everybody around us. We tend to cruise something closer to probably like 8 or 9 knots. So we're well underneath that limit, and we don't have to slide that toggle back and forth. But by Starlink doing this for us, they've really made this a really usable plan. It's $150 US per month, which I think is reasonable. There are others out there that are a little frustrated. It did go up over time. That's the way these types of things work. Starlink keeps shooting satellites up, like 49 of them at a time every couple weeks. So they're certainly investing in the network. We've seen it get a lot better than last year when we were up here in desolation, and we were early adopters, right? How many dishes did we see up here last year?
None.
Yeah. And we were just talking about it cruising around on the dinghy last night, and probably 20 to 25% of the population.
Yeah, I would say 25% have Starlink now.
Yeah. So it is going to be more competitive, as more Starlinks start dropping into bays. But that's just kind of how it works. I will finish this one thing on this plan that you can't do on the residential plan without losing your priority on the residential plan, is you can pause this mobility plan, which is great. If you're not like us, we're on a boat all the time. Most people, especially coastal cruisers, they're going to be using their boat anywhere from a handful of weeks to maybe a handful of months per year. You just turn on the service during that time, and then when you don't need the service, you can pause the service. So
it's great.
Super flexible plan as far as we're concerned. Completely, it makes sense for us. Now there is one last plan that really fits into the ocean cruising population. So you think about it, these are people who are way off the coast. You're going transatlantic, trans-Pacific. Having Starlink, quite frankly, is critical. It's been a game changer from everyone I've ever met that's been using this for open ocean cruising. They still have backup plans with Iridium and other things to be able to get their weather, because you can't 100% rely on Starlink right now. Yeah. So it's one of those things, it really is, like I said, a game changer to be able to email and contact people and those things, but it is very much a backup system for your critical weather systems and those types of things. Now for our coastal cruisers, this is where it's kind of interesting. There's a little bit of a blend. There's no black and white on this one. You can, if you go into the ocean area, you have to have the priority data on. And they do have a priority mobility plan, but I'll be really honest with you, I'm not a huge fan of it, because the priority data plan is $250 a month. It comes with 50 gig, which you might look at that and go, oh, well, it comes with that, that's fine. But if you get into any coastal waters, it just burns your high priority data, whether you're in coastal waters that, if you're under 10 miles per hour, you wouldn't be burning that data usage, and you really don't have any say over it. And by the way, 50 gigs times $2 a gig, that's $100. There's your $100 more than the $150 mobility plan. So, in my estimation, I don't think it ever makes any sense to go with the high priority mobility plan, which covers ocean. But once you go through your 50 gig, it disconnects. And you have to be able to, it will connect to the Starlink array so that you can upgrade your plan and be able to get the priority data. But since the data rates are exactly the same, I can never find an instance where it would make any sense to have the priority mobility one. I would just go with the mobility one and then slide over that toggle when you're in open ocean. And you can slide it back when you don't want to be using it when you're on open ocean, and you don't have to pay for that. It just seems more reasonable to me and more flexible. We had gone with the priority mobility one, but we did it for a month, and I just did the math and looked at the scenarios, and it just never made sense. It never made sense. I'd like to see people's comments down below if you see some scenarios where going with the high priority does make sense for recreational boaters that are offshore open ocean cruising. I hope all of this helps. It's been a year and a half. Well, no, really a year since we've had our Starlink. We've learned a lot about it. The plans have changed a ton. There was such a lack of clarity for so long, and they were iterating the service. They were trying to figure out how people were actually going to use it, not just how they thought people were going to use it. And they've now come up with all this clarity on the plans. So it just makes a lot more sense. I hope this helps everybody. For all of you that are coastal cruisers out there, just get the mobility plan. It's perfect. And on this trip, we've already used it for well over hundreds of hours. No problems.
Yeah, it's been great.
Great connection. Don't forget to go take a look at the hardware video. I'm still a big fan of the HP dish in tight anchorages where there's blockage and stuff. That one does not drop out as much as the standard Roam dish did. It's also just much more rugged. We have friends that have the Roam dish and the motors break. And that is not covered under warranty. Anyhow, get the rest of that information from that video and have a great season cruising.
See you next time.
Peace.
That's good, baby.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Covered a lot of ground.
A lot.